I've done the action replay legends, so you already know I can't ignore the legal legendaries, so it's time to rank all 63 of these cave squatters. The number sounds off, because there's 59 technically, but I've mastered Steiner mathematics, so just trust your man here. They're all just legendaries to me anyway. But after ranking the mythicals, I can actually see the difference a lot more. A good bulk of the legendaries provide some kind of a service, like Suicune purifying water, or Lugia guarding the sea, or whatever it does. Or Berserker pulling pints down the local. Wait, no. I'm getting legendary confused with an absolute legend. One who knows all too well about this video's sponsor, Manscaped. They gave me the drop from their all-in-one Perfect Package 4.0. Can't be underestimating the importance of manscaping. You don't even want to know how Berserker was looking before it got its claws on the Lawnmower 4.0. Manscaped's 4th generation trimmer with advanced skin-safe technology. A wireless charging dock, LED lights showing you the battery life so you don't get blue ball halfway through a trim, cordless and waterproof. Get that boy in the shower. Use the thing as a bath toy if you want. Comes with a travel lock feature and all. Tap that button on the front 3 times and you're set. Didn't even know your bollocks needed a bit of aftershave either, but here we are. The package comes with the Crop Preserver ball deodorant and the Crop Reviver ball toner spray. Slap those boys on your boys after you shower for all day odor protection. And also, the magic mat has your floor covered. You can get all of this plus 2 free gifts. The Shed travel bag and the anti-chafing boxes. Head down to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free international shipping, as well as those 2 free gifts when you use the promo code Mr1upz at checkout. Head to the link in the description. Now, just like the locals down Berserker's pub, the legends usually have a trade or 2 on their belt, ones that keep the universe or planet in balance. There's levels to this game. Groudon's trade is shaping the Earth's lands. Melmetal is forklift certified. Finally gonna rank all 63 manning the universe, or manning whatever dark cave they loiter in. This one isn't up for debate. The most dead legendary going. Wouldn't even waste a great ball on it. It'd barely get to taste a premier ball if it's lucky. Moltres. Don't care if you're from the 151 golden age. That doesn't give it the pass here. And speaking of gold, everyone seems to think Ho-Oh looks stupid enough as it is. If you're one of those people, you can't go around fronting that Moltres is salvageable, looking like Ho-Oh got set to max crisp in the air fryer. Most legendaries I'd be keen to catch, you know, just for the collectible aspect and I guess the spectacle of having a legendary scrap. But Regi Gigas, yeah, no, I'm good. You could just stay in your little shrine. Colossal Patriarch of the Titans. I don't know about that one. Looking more like an AI painting if it got asked to generate a set of traffic lights and Robo Sapien. Your man needs a jet wash for them crusty toes. Now, the moss was doing it a favor. Give it another few sets of 1,000 years of slumber and maybe no one will ever have to expose their retinas to this monstrosity again. Heatran? You're damn right the Heatran, the most room temperature legendary going. Didn't even realize legendaries could be NPCs. And how's it even a part of the Sinnoh Gods crowd? It's not really, is it? Heatran's just a guy. He fixes people's radiators. Palkia keeps space intact. With Heatran, man's there just to carry Giratina's bags through the airport. Arceus really just made Heatran to make the rest of them look that much better in comparison for the group photos. Probably gonna get some heat on me for this one, but at least I'll still have a bit more heat to me than Kyurem. It's a nah from me. How are you gonna have a Pokemon whose gimmick is having insane power, but never getting full access to it? You get halfway there with Kyurem black and white forms, but really, you're just a Necrozma having a semi-Necrozma honey-dicked form. Dwelling within is great power, but the extreme cold keeps that power bound. Yeah, you sure? Go on then. Chuck on a body warmer, let's see you on that heavy bag. Calyrex is... like, can already tell where your votes are going. The king Pokemon. The man looks like he'd use a knife and fork to eat a pack of crisps. Little menace going around calling himself the High King. The thing must be high to think it's the king of anything. You're not selling me on the gimmick of powerful ruler over the Galar region. You don't imagine Calyrex. You'd imagine some unit built like Tyson Fury being king of England. The Late Guardian trio, very mid Sinnoh legends. Everyone gives them attention, but only because they have Dialga and Palkia on the gram and they want a clout chase. But the worst one out of them, clearly Mesprit, going on the Tour de Sinnoh as soon as you show up as if it had the clout to do that to begin with. As if it's Entei, as if it's got the biggest biceps out of the Late Guardian trio. If it had a Zelf stats, or a Pokemon the Movie 3 going for it, I could maybe give it the pass, but nah. With a lot of the trios, you're very likely always going to have one that just isn't pulling their weight for the rest of them. And Xerneas is by far the least forceful out of the forces of nature, so you're telling me the incarnate forms are meant to be physical forms, but the other is more like a spirit animal. You see, this is where Xerneas got mugged off. My man, Game Freak, forgot to season Xerneas, and this guy really changes form just to fly around in a far more inefficient way. Hey, I'll take the cloud form here if you're not using it. Clearly you want to go manual on your flying. This one's gonna get me some heat now, because Kyogre does nothing for me. I can remember looking at the shelves in Game Station in 2003, choosing between pretty much Groudon and Kyogre, and decisions in my life didn't get too much easier from that point forward. Now I have to add that disclaimer. Not bad design, because I really can't justify that objectively. Go ahead and like what you like, it's just not doing anything for me personally, especially when you look into its origins and it has all these callbacks to mythology, and it feels like maybe there's just a tad bit more you could have gone for here for the personification of the sea than an inflatable orca sunbed. Now I love bulking season as much as the next creatine goblin listening to the Rocks bars on repeat for a whole gym session. But I've got to say, Terrakion is a bit tame compared to the rest of the Swords of Justice. Don't even know how you fit in there really. What are you meant to be? What are you, the cross guard? You a big bulky Quillen for your mates? Blades of Justice, looking more like the shoulder blade of justice. Should go form a faction with Poliwrath and Hitmonlee. Conceptually, Glastrier and Spectrier are great. In practice though, they're looking a bit base form. They look like the Sword and Shield pair before they got dressed, but times 3. Looking barren, looking beta form. Game's still an alpha for these two. You don't get a crowned Sword or Shield item to add personality to them here. Only add-on they're getting is being mounted. There's someone else's add-on, made to make Calyrex look good, which admittedly, it does help it out a fair bit as needing it. Even though they're one big plot device really, Cosmog and Moem are solid designs in their own right, especially considering that they're not fully evolved, and they're getting aesthetically judged neck and neck to the ones meticulously designed to be monetized and milked for maximum profit on as much promotional material as possible for 3 years. The only thing that throws me off, this is clearly just Lunala's evolution line. You'd think Solgaleo would have gotten its own Cosmoem that was, a bit more on brand for him. The rest of the Lake Guardian trio, okay, they're not much higher, but they didn't deserve to be down there with Mesprit. They don't mug you off having your Staraptor pulling cross-country shifts just hoping it makes an appearance. The other two know their role. What they're supposed to do is line up at the back end of the cave, stay right where they are, might put them to sleep, and let me sling 30 Ultra Balls at them. Mesprit must have lied on the CV to land a Lake Guardian job. Ditches that lake straight for the back end of the country at the first sign of an intruder. Slowest one out of them too. I don't know how it's getting away so quickly. The times have changed. Not all legendaries have to be some omnipotent creature waiting for someone to play the forbidden riff on an ancient accordion. So now you get ones like Kufbu. I actually do like them. It's just not so much as legendary Pokemon. Because I don't see legendary, I see a VIP. Kinda like how I would see Volcanion or Zeraora. Having it be like a legendary Tyrogue with its own evolution line to go along with it, it's not helping it with the pseudo-legendary vibes it's given off. Wouldn't even pass off as a pseudo-legendary. 50 points shy of the passing grade for that title. None of the conventions of a legendary Pokemon, but it's got that title anyway, purely from being that much of a hard man. Wait, hold on a minute. You're saying these two are legends? Oh, I just thought they had no friends. Like Rotom. So what's the crack here? You have a synthetic Pokemon who's apparently got a max bench press a bit too scary for the Ether Foundation, that they mounted some ancient VR headset Shangong Wu in its head to nerf it. All this hype about it going on a rampage. Yeah, with what? All 95 of your stats. Slacking probably goes on a bigger rampage every second turn than this thing does. Apparently it wasn't even the max bench press scaring everyone. It was that 40-yard dash. Only thing this muzzle did was make it slower. It's about as strong with or without the helm. It'd still batter you if it gets a hold of you. If it's that beefy, you had to suppress its power. I don't know, limit its diet to soy only. But aside from all of that feeling a bit inconsistent to the lore, that lore still bangs. It's not just a legendary that exists purely to loiter in a cave, making this Ultra Beast Slayer modeled after Arceus. I get a fair few comments about how you not like Zygarde, and here I am looking at every legendary as a collective, and in all fairness tears, nothing else on the market that's quite like a Pokemon made up of tiny cells that you'd have to collect. But there's one big thing I just don't get with you Zygarde lovers. How can any of yous care about it so easily when it's done absolutely nothing? Now fair enough, so many legendaries do nothing. Plenty of Moltres of the world fulfilling their sole purpose in life of sitting on their one Minecraft block of space until they have to dodge an Ultra Ball or two. This is meant to be the third man to the box art legendaries. Nah, that needs a motive. You'd think Cresselia would be a mythical being the counterpart to Darkrai and all that, but I guess when it's the only cure to Darkrai's sleep paralysis, you probably should make him easy enough to find. Make him local enough so none of the NPCs get soft-locked into Darkrai's wild ride. Yeah, I'm really sorry about your kid. I know I was meant to get that Lunar Wing and save him, but I was about 2 days late. I couldn't get to the Nintendo store in New York on time. Ah yes, the alpha male of the forces of nature. Landorus is an absolute menace, and I never thought I'd use that to describe something in 2 pairs of moon shoes. It makes sense for the Gligar line in the incarnate form, but how do you get grounded flying for something that appears to be physically grounded? That's an easy one. Give them the literal Air Force Ones. Eternatus might be the first Pokemon where I've had to stop myself and think, am I senile? Do I just not get Pokemon anymore? But when I change my perspective, when I'm looking at an extraterrestrial that crash landed 20,000 years ago, why should Eternatus look even remotely like a Pokemon? Bit difficult to digest its anatomy. That's how I know it's actually well designed. I wouldn't know whether to send out Grapplock to give it the 4-piece or call up the Galactic Federation and let Samus have a quick word with him. Yveltal doesn't seem to get the attention that a lot of legends do, which is a shame, because you have to admire the creativity here. Can't go back on the name X and Y now. Just imagining they've soft-locked themselves into a corner like, God of Destruction, absorbs life, eh? That's pretty good. That's great actually, but could you make them shaped like the letter Y? Cresselia isn't a bad first shot at a moon legendary, but I can't fault them if they wanted to save the good material for a potential sun and moon counterpart, ones that aren't made of Crayola model magic. Lunala's a simple but effective way to conjure up a moon Pokemon. Your man's shaped like the moon, colored like the night sky. It's a big, jumbo-sized bat, the wings being how full the bat moon is. That's a nice design touch. Yeah, Lugia's this mid. What are you gonna do about it? I'm so easy with anything Gen 2, so I thought I was gonna rate Lugia a lot higher here. I'm rating Lugia a lot more than the film critics did, I could say that much. Line Lugia up against the wall with every other legendary, and it's getting outworked here. The Pokemon designers really love that combo of long neck and grog belly. I don't know what's more sickening here, having to run back and forth across the Johto region just to finally catch the thing, or finding out just how many of yous watched the third movie a bit too much. Didn't realize just how much Beauty and the Beast awakened an entire generation, so I can't blame Entei for being a Roman legend. I'd be on the run to another country as well if I attracted that kind of fan base. Entei, definitely worthy of the clout of having to hunt down across the country, shirtless with a Bowie knife between your teeth, roaming the mean routes of Johto on the prowl. Necrozma looks like an absolute little freak. Thought this was more of an Ultra Beast than a legendary, because of its goblin-like features. Doesn't sit around and get cut like Kyurem. You get the full Ainsley. Ultra Necrozma means it actually gets its big, low poly claws onto those pesky box art legends to devour. Kyurem clearly wasn't cut for the job of getting its hands on its 2 legendaries. Necrozma learned from those mistakes. At least 50% of Necrozma's body weight consists of hand. The guy was built from the ground up to consume legendaries once it gets a hold of them with them pincers. Landorus may be the alpha of these spirit animals, or whatever. It may be the ringleader, the brains behind the schemes they've got going to try and bite jawbreakers or whatever Japanese gods do during slow work days. Thundurus is definitely the looks of the operation. Wingzerus, or whatever, wildcard. Never know what it's gonna do. Sure, there are some caves that are in desperate need of loitering. If only one legendary could exist out of these 3. If you're going purely by an ocular pat down, Thundurus slumps the other 2 handily. The Regis don't take after the late Guardians. They've actually got a bit of home security going. It's so specific the things it'd tell you to do. Playing the modern games now and how they just hand legends out to you half the time. I can't believe this was ever even a thing. You want a side legend and it's like, it says here I have to eat exactly 23 cherry berries, do 40 push-ups, and you want a parent's credit card? Oh, I've got to fly all the way back to Marvel City. Regi wants a Big Mac. A 3-piece of Titans forcing kids 2 years off gaining actual sentience to decipher Braille or milk that strategy guide money really made them feel like secret legendaries. The most humble and least offensive beak of the lot, Articuno. It's a few notches shy of easily the most offensive beak of the group, Zapdos. The face on him, if you were eating chips on a hotel balcony, Zapdos could steal them 2 stories above you. But whether you prefer Thunder or Lord Frieza, it's all good, because they're both a country mile ahead of whatever 2-star rated takeaway Moltres is being roasted in. Latios and Latias, probably the one case where the roaming legendary aspect makes the most sense. You don't even get Honeydicked walking up a hill and finding them somewhere only for them to dash before you can even whack the Pokedex out to get it registered. You're just going about a standard route and it's there chilling with some level 7 Puchienas. Unless you're playing the remakes and you just main character your way into being groomed by the champion so he just gives you one. Old games had you grafting, had to become champion for the pair of them to decide you were even worthy of walking the same patch of grass as them. You can't even look up the location on the Pokedex if you've not already had that lucky encounter. All you get is your dad in the living room like, what color's that right there? Is that red or blue? I don't know, blue? There's your hint, blue. Go out and sniff some clues. Sinnoh surely has to have the most stacked set of legendaries. I mean, when you take out Regigigas and Stone Cold Heatran, when you start talking about the real big boys, and Palkia is probably the worst one out of them, that's not even me trying to bury Palkia. That's just how you know Sinnoh's got some turbo firepower for its legendary lineup. Entei made the box office, Suicune made the box, Raikou got... You got fangs? Now, Raikou is very underrated compared to the other two. An underrated design aspect for Pokemon in general. The Purple Rain mane, literally built with thunderclouds. I have to rate it highly enough considering there's a 5-minute loop of me saying the name Raikou out there for some reason. Okay, I get what 2014 me was on about there. The name is actually very satisfying to say. Raikou. 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 Hello. Raikou. 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 Hey, Raikou, come here, Raikou. I can see why people dislike Reshiram and Zekrom. They're peak examples of Pokemon hitting its, I guess, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds phase, if that makes sense. But once you embrace the change, once you say, hey, who cares if it's getting a bit too digital monster for my liking, they're a good pair of front cover legends. You can say what you want about the Kyurem forms making it look a bit overkill, making Reshiram and Zekrom look like Transformers, but instead of turning into Lambos and fire trucks, they turn into nuclear power reactors, but these two are a clean pair of front cover contenders. Even after Kyurem gets its grubby 3-inch biceps wrapped around one of them and fuses, they look overkill, which is usually a red flag for me, but they look overkill in just the right way considering what they're meant to be. The other 2/3 of the Swords of Justice are clearly the parts of the blade which are used to acquire other trainers' pocket money without having to beat him in a battle. I get that Terrakion is meant to be the more stout and girthy member of the 3 Musketeers or whatever they had going. Don't mean to body shame the quadruped Trapezius. I'd be on the double vodka ways for them shoulders, but it's just nowhere near up there with Cobalion and especially Virizion for me. There he is, your man out of the Kanto birds. Gotta be Zapdos. And this isn't even just my own scuffed opinion about how efficiently it would scran your takeaway at a convenient distance. Moltres, super effective against Articuno. Articuno, super effective against Zapdos. Okay, alright, fair enough, you got my boy there. But Zapdos, I don't want to say this pun, but electricity sparks out the Perias. Yeah, enjoy that flying liability. Try not to hit any rocks on the floor after Zapdos tucks the lot of you in for bed. Now these are two Regis I can get behind. No disrespect to the other Titans, at least the ones that have had at least one bath in the last 1,000 years. I wasn't expecting anything to ever be added to the Regi lineup again. Could have gone down the easy route of just making him a yellow Regice, but nah, they had to go and give Darkrai just that much more sleep paralysis fuel. And then there's the lore of Regi Drago possibly being the head to an ancient dragon. You know what that tells me? That tells me Regigigas isn't the big daddy of the golems. Your man is the stepdad. We've got to find all 5 pieces of Exodia for Regi Drago and find the real Regi daddy. I'm a Shield man myself, but I think 2 years ago, that was more because of the exclusives it had. You take the version exclusives out, and we all know what the A side is here. I've seen the shelves. You're all doing my boys Zamazenta a bit dirty here. I get it. Everybody wants the sword. What are you gonna do with a shield? Do you really think that you have the finesse to cause damage with a defensive piece of equipment as if you're America's greatest hero? Goofy? To me, these two might just be the most equal pair of legendary poster boys. Refreshing to see two main legends that aren't complete polar opposites or looking to do the other one in. Just a pair of the boys. How is it even a contest between Groudon and Kyogre? Not even just aesthetically. Kyogre gets mugged off on its own territory by something that's taken up, alright, I'll give him that 4 blocks of Minecraft space at least. Got the type and the home field advantage. Groudon's a striker in a wrestling match, but still gives Kyogre the business before Rayquaza comes down them stairs and starts undoing his belt. Being the poster boy to your boys' first game, I'll always have a soft spot for the golden chicken in the sky Ash saw as he went into Valhalla before being comatose when he had a tumble off Misty's bike or something. I don't know. I never read BuzzFeed. I'm not even gassing. Ho-Oh is this high up. Based on how often I see this one slandered for looking like the mascot to a money laundering chicken shop, this is looking like my spiciest take in a while. Or about 10 minutes ago. Spicier than the seasoning they doused Fearow in to make this glorious immortal phoenix. I've made the Fearow jokes along with yous. Even like 10 minutes ago, I was just saying if you chucked him in the air fryer long enough, it'll come out looking like the worst legendary going. But you're looking at that the wrong way, I think. Intentionally or not, they took a design as dead as Fearow and made it elite enough to be slapped onto a cardboard box, which would go on to sell 23 million times, along with Lugia. Xerneas goes way under the radar for legendary Pokemon. Even back in Gen 6, you'd think the headline act for the newly introduced fairy type would be a bigger deal than a keyring. If this came out in any other generation, maybe it would have got that attention. But it just had to be in Gen 6, where almost everything got overlooked by the Nostalgia Act Pick-Me Boy Mega Evolutions. Might not be as X-shaped as Yveltal is Y. Might have to bust out the jean short wide stance to pull it off. And with a name like Xerneas, you can already tell its votes are going towards Calyrex. But it's by far one of the most clean looking legends on the market. Now this is partly the reason why the Steiner Mathematics got this to 63, because I'm giving this one its own segment. The Forces of Nature incarnate forms as a trio, I ain't about that. Just gonna waste a potential banger concept of having a genie mythical Pokemon. So I'm gonna go about the incarnate forms as if it's a singular Pokemon, because that's how I see it. 3 alternate attires. The only thing I can see here is how lucky you got of loot boxes. I love the genie concept. All of the attention of this concept should have gone to just the one yoked up man on his Nimbus cloud. And that's why I'm saying mythical and not legendary, because a magical genie more than fits the bill of being something you'd only be getting a hold of by filing Pikachu's taxes in a spin-off game. Not a fan of my hand being held through the 4 islands of Alola, but I'm definitely a fan of those 4 islands, each having its own Hawaiian guardian deity. I was leaning towards Tapu Koko being the top draw here, but honestly, I've got to give it to the whole 4-pack, because I rate them all this highly for effectively the same reason. The Hawaiian god aesthetic goes in. It's like the opposite of Glacier and Spectria, an undisputed set of bangers. No fat here to trim, not a single Keldeo in sight to tag along. Incarnate form trio better be taking notes. This is how you pull off a group and make it worth having it be a faction. I said before in the regional forms ranked, I definitely know it's been long enough now. This isn't recency bias anymore. My judgment isn't clouded like Arceus's gaff. The Galarian Kanto Bird trio, all bangers. I don't want to hear otherwise. Especially Chocobo Zapdos. And really, especially Moltres. It needed at least 6 figures worth of cosmetic work done to sort that out. Not only is Dialga an absolute unit of a legendary specimen, it's a peak example of the importance of legendaries compared to mythicals. Celebi floats around time and all of that, but Dialga's the one manning the Big Ben of the universe. That's not just knowing a trade, that's about as important as it gets job-wise. Takes one day off and the universe bricks. Given that Arceus and Mew are mythicals, Dialga along with Palkia surely have to be the 2 most important legendary Pokemon. The backbone of existence, Big Daddy Dialga. Mewtwo is the whole package of a legendary. Good lore behind him, juicy mental muscles behind him, and that final boss energy that only a small handful of legendaries can really pull off. Never seen a legendary just asking for a slap off that Master Ball more than Mewtwo. That voice as well. I know this Mewtwo and its Dom energy awakened a lot of weird things with a lot of you weapons, but I mean, hey, to be fair, Mewtwo is looking a bit buff, you know? A little bit more than one of Mew's hairs making them pectorals. 269 pounds. And this lean? You don't even have to tell me about the gene splicing. Already know Mewtwo definitely ain't natty attainable. But that's what happens when you merge the DNA of Mew along with the product of genetic jackhammer Giovanni. Entei might have got the box office rub. Raikou might have got a 5-minute loop of me saying his name in 2014. Suicune got the second biggest rub out of the lot. The frontman of the legendary beasts. They knew this was the shout. Suicune getting the 3rd game. Don't even need to make a 3rd counterpart to Ho-Oh and Lugia. You've got such a peak specimen right here to slap on a box and hustle people for a 3rd time. I know you're just buying the same game, but Suicune acknowledges your existence this time around. But still, a top shelf game with a top shelf banger as the mascot. Sun and Moon may be bottom tier for me relative to the main series, but that front cover was selling me a dream, cause Ultraviolet Entei is anything but dead tier. Solgaleo, genuinely a top 3 legendary. They may have had to get a bit creative sorting out a legendary shaped like a Y, but they really pulled in a good few shifts designing something this top dollar based on a fireball. My top few choices here are actually a bit similar to the Mythical ranked video. Darkrai being one of my top Mythicals, the Pokemon who gives you unending nightmares. And here we have Giratina, the Pokemon who stars in your unending nightmares. But who could be scared with a shiny form like that, looking real fresh? Giratina in its base form at first might look a bit stubby, but who even cares about that when Giratina is what being a secret legendary is all about? At least before it got slapped on its own front cover. Hadn't the slightest idea Giratina even existed when I played through Diamond. A solid region that, rewarding the player for exploring just like Hoenn. And then it starts piping up in the story. Didn't think I could get jump scared from a 3-inch screen, but here we are. The origin form really is what sells the gimmick that much more. Got Cyrus rethinking his entire life's choices. One look at him and you already know that Seal of Orichalcos must have got a hold of you. Now I rate Deoxys very highly, so damn right I'm gonna rate the only man big enough to smack him about 7 days a week and twice on Sundays. Even Darkrai goes to bed and gets nightmares about Deoxys, but Deoxys sees a therapist over Rayquaza. Darkrai looking into Rayquaza bedsheets as we speak. The Lake Trio combined can barely hold back Dialga or Palkia. Rayquaza whips both of the Hoenn legends into line just with its presence alone. The Sky Slinky is the only being powerful enough, the only one with a belt long enough to call a referee stoppage to the pair of them. Mewtwo must be shook, knowing it's had every drug possible pumped in between its toes to make it the strongest. Then it's finding out Rayquaza's all natty and still this powerful. Big Ray, the first legend to make Mewtwo humble itself.